So next, let's talk about plots that Thyric missed within the story. And I guess just kind of as a background, I tried not to metagame too much with Thyric, and I tried to play him in the mind of somebody who's not maybe super intelligent about things. But one of them was the talisman from the Compass Rose, and if we make a season 2 of this, I think we might play around that thought. And um, I don't know. I don't really want to go into too much detail about it because in case it is a season 2. But the talisman from the Compass Rose was something that was kind of a big deal.
Yeah. So the talisman was found in the journal that was in the captain's chest, and yeah, there was this whole backstory to that you didn't even bother looking at, so you missed like the whole end of what this chapter was supposed to be. So yeah, there was more finalization there that you didn't get to, but maybe we will.
And I kind of wanted to play Thyric as somebody who like was tunnel visioning his goal, right? And
you were very tunnel visioning. It just set these ships on fire. Done with it. Gotta kill Sparkrender. Done with it. Gotta kill these kobolds. They're evil. Done with it.
Yeah.
Dunzo. Just.
A couple of things, and kind of as a solo player too. I kind of felt really trapped in the observatory, and obviously I kind of thought a way around of a way that would make sense for Thyric, but like the star map around Sparkrender, I do not think that one, that Thyric would have been able to figure that out, and two, that even if he rolled well enough, that it would have been.
Didn't I even give you advantage on that roll? Because I said
Maybe.
You're a sailor, you would probably know like constellations and stars very well, and you rolled horribly. And I'm like, okay, it's big gas balls in sky. Like that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, again, we made our way around it. It worked, and it is something that is actually in the campaign. It's not something that Boba just made up. But at that point, as a solo player, I kind of felt a little bit trapped. But throughout the rest of the campaign, I thought it was okay. I thought it was a lot of fun. I do think there were maybe a few encounters that could have went south really quickly, but we made our way through it, and I think it was fine.
Yeah. The observatory was there. There were a few puzzles, and I think you completely missed the puzzles. You just did what your character would do, which was like straightforward ways of thinking of, I'm just gonna get there. I'm not gonna try to logic out of this. I'm just gonna climb the side of this wall. I'm gonna fall down, like jump down in the water and just go. Yeah. So puzzles difficult, but there's multiple ways to do things in D&D. So
the hot spring that I encountered at the Owlbear Cave.
Yeah. So another thing you kind of missed was in the Owlbear Cave, in one of the little tunnels there, you came across a hot spring, and all that you really missed was you got the mushrooms, and I think Tarek explained the mushrooms to you, but there was just one extra thing to it, just a little extra treasure like thing for you. It was just if you were to go in the water, it healed you. I think it cleared you of everything, and then it just would take you to full health if you were in it for like 10 minutes. So I put that in there hoping that it would be of use to you like between battles, and so you could quickly rest up once you got back, and you wouldn't have to spend so much time doing like short rests or something like in Dragon's Rest. But yeah, you never tried it out, so, which is fine. I mean, whatever. I guess that was just something you.
Yeah. And I also missed a few items throughout the story, and I think I maybe didn't even put them into like my character sheet, and I think maybe that's part of the reason that I missed them. But
I thought you did. I was trying to be very clear and obvious. I think some things you put into your character sheet, it's just, and like maybe you tried to look at them, but also you didn't have detect magic or anything, so there was no way, which that was also my bad, but you also didn't ask anybody else in town to look at them, so I guess there were ways around it. But now some items I added, some things were in the campaign. So I think these were the ones that you missed. You found boots on the ship. I think those were also in the captain's chest. That was a part of the campaign, so I didn't add that. There were boots of elven kind, and they were supposed to allow you advantage on stealth rolls, and then also walk around without making any noise, which would have been freaking perfect for Spark Render. But you ended up having a potion of invisibility and rolled well with stealth. It worked out. So, but I think they added the boots in the campaign purposefully for that, in case you wanted to go that way. And then we already talked about how you missed the journal and the talisman in the captain's chest too. That was you. I know you saw the journal, you just didn't even bother reading it. Oh, and then also in the owlbear cave, another thing too that I was kind of bummed that you didn't look at too were some of the items that the owlbear had or that the skeleton had. Because I made all that up and I was so bummed. There was like a whole backstory between this owlbear and his master, I guess. Yeah. And there was a journal that I think the owlbear had that was his master's journal. And there were like, I had so many different entries written down for you to read. I was so proud of that. And you didn't even bother looking at any of those items. And I remember I said that the owlbear, like when you got close enough to the owlbear, I said, you notice these little pile of items that is by him? And you didn't. Even after you became friends with the owlbear, you still never went back and looked. And I think I mentioned that again. I was like, oh yeah, there's that pile of stuff the owlbear had. And you never went back. Yeah, bummer, because I spent a lot of time on that. Thanks. And then also in the owlbear cave, it was the encounter with the dark mantle. The whole point, man, the whole point of even going over in that cave was you picked up this bag, and that's when you got attacked by the dark mantle, and you didn't bother to look what that bag was either. It was a bag of tricks. It appears to be empty, and I think you looked at it, and I said, it appears to be empty, and then you just didn't look any further into it. But I forget completely what Bag of Tricks does. But I think you essentially can just like reach your hand in and then magically pull out, depending on what kind of bag, because there's different types of bags that have different creatures in there that you can pull out as like little minion pets. So I was just trying to think of, I added that item because I tried to think of, if he doesn't get the owlbear, if he decides to kill the owlbear, I don't know, then here's extra help he can get in fights. And then also in that cave, there was a different skeleton that had a ring on it. I think you grabbed the ring and you didn't observe that either. That was a ring of telekinesis. Yeah, just simple as that. You're able to cast telekinesis and move stuff. But so I was bummed I added so much stuff you just overlooked. But
sorry. Yeah, and I think you said that was one point that the campaign maybe left a lot out with, was that idea of the owlbear. I think you said like there was kind of a story to it, but it was kind of lacking. And I think you maybe added a little bit to it.
Yeah, so we can go into what I decided to add. So yeah, just with that owlbear encounter, the campaign had different side stories, or not even quests. Essentially, they could be turned into mini quests. Just little suggestions on how you can expand the campaign a little bit more. And it talked about an owlbear encounter, and all it really said was just, put this owlbear somewhere. And it said that it had the whistle around its neck, and if someone got within 5 feet and was able to grab the whistle and then they decided to blow into it, that it would calm the owlbear, and then that's it. And I think it did say that, because it had the whistle, it did say that it was from a traveling troupe of some kind. And that's really it. It just kind of crashed with one of the ships, and that's how it got to the island. But I was like, well, I feel like I need kind of more of a backstory. So I decided to create the whole, like, bard backstory, and then more of like what to find with Owlbear. So it actually made more sense on how he got there, and like what he was doing there. And then also, because you were a solo player, I wanted it to be a little more purposeful of having, blow the whistle for the Owlbear, because it did say that it calms it, but then it doesn't leave that location. It just kind of stays there. So I guess if you had the whistle and you calmed it, you can like roam about its area and it knows you mean no harm. But I don't know. I thought it would be fun to have like an owlbear mount, like an owlbear friend. Yeah, so I kind of added that of like, once you blew the whistle, then you kind of command it now. So I added the dark mantle attack in there, and I felt really bad when your character was trying so hard with that other crack in the ground. That crack you kept like jumping over, and I said it just leads outside. It just, nope, it's just a crack in the floor. It goes down really deep. I don't know. And you were trying really hard with that. I'm sorry. I didn't think you would, but you were really trying to work with every part of that map. In the moment during the campaign while we were playing it out, I did try to think of something I could have around that area to attack you, and I couldn't find something fast enough because you were like, all right, well, I'll just walk around the cave. I thought about like, oh, well, what if I have like his shadow self come out of there and attack him? But I couldn't find anything that quickly, so I'm bummed. Could have been something cool, but I was not prepared for that, so I'm sorry. Campaign also suggested the hot spring too. I think everything about the hot spring was really written in the campaign. So the mushrooms that allowed you to breathe without oxygen, essentially, so like you could go underwater, and then also like the fume drakes, that was all part of the hot spring suggestion, and then also like the healing water. So I just decided to add that in the other part of the cave. Also, with, I think the hot spring could have been useful with the mushrooms, like breathing underwater, because of the whole like backstory history of the island, of like that dragon being buried beneath the ocean. Like if you wanted to go explore beneath the ocean, well, here you go, you have these mushrooms where you don't have to breathe for an hour. Mm-hmm. So that could also been a whole nother adventure that, maybe also explore in another series. Yeah, the only other thing I added was the extra ships. But that again was a suggestion, and I already explained this a little bit earlier, but it was a suggestion to add extra ships, but I can't remember if I got the maps or if it was part of this campaign or not. I think I got the maps. Then yeah, I added what treasures I thought could be helpful, and I added whatever monsters I wanted. So
we're going to end here with the overall story and just kind of our initial thoughts as a DM and a solo player. So I guess I'll start that as the overall story. I liked it. I thought it was pretty fun and engaging, and I looked forward to being able to play every single week. I think, had I delved deeper with the history of the place a bit more, I would have liked it even more. I really didn't think that was the kind of person that Thyric would have been. There was that one part where he did sit in the library for a little bit and read, but I just didn't think that he would really dive deep into the history of the place too much. But I liked it overall. I thought it was fun. I thought the story was fun and engaging, and I think there are some big parts that are, kind of shocking, like Renara turning into a dragon. You're like, holy crap, she just transformed into a dragon, Mm-hmm. So I like the story. I thought it was fun. What about for you?
I think I liked it for the most part. It was maybe a little more exciting as a player because you didn't, like, you were living in it as you were going. I think it was a really easy read, like a story. It was pretty short to read. I think I read all of it within like a day or two. Like I was flying through it pretty quickly, and it was really easy to follow along and understand, as a DM too. So, I thought it was fun for the most part. Maybe a little less fun just because I knew everything that was going to happen. So there wasn't many shock factors as we were playing. But when I was initially reading it, I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And especially knowing more about the campaign than you do, I guess, and hearing about more history things that you just would never know. But yeah, I agree that some things about the town that maybe Thyric wouldn't, dive deep into the history of the town too. That's also partially my bad because I really didn't think there was too much written in the campaign about the history of the town in particular. There was a little bit, and I tried to incorporate that where I could, and even some of the NPCs. But that does leave a big, it's open to interpretation and whatever way you want to go, and you can add more to this campaign if you want. Just me as a first time DM, I'm not going to be too good at that. So I was really trying to follow by the storybook.
And what about your initial thoughts as a beginning DM?
Oh my god. So first, not even like with this campaign, just DMing in general terrified me. I'd be anxious to DM every week. And I felt like I was struggling really hard to keep it exciting and engaging and enough of a challenge for you where, it didn't feel like you were just floating through easily. But yeah, I'm glad that this campaign was so easy for like a first time DM. I do think that this is a great one if you're going to DM for the first time because it is shorter. It's only like it's 3 main chapters because you have like the 3 locations you go to, and then you have your main hometown of Dragon's Rest. So you kind of have some explanation of Dragon's Rest, and then you go off into these 3 different adventures. So it's not too long, and it's pretty easy to remember a lot of the information. But I would say the main thing that I was horrible at was just getting used to navigating the campaign story, like on that website, and then also like the maps and stuff like that. So I guess that was a little harder. So I'm glad that I had an easy campaign to navigate with.
For me as a solo player, first off, I thought you did a great job as a beginning DM. Again, I felt really engaged. I really enjoyed the story. Might I be a little biased? Yeah, maybe. But I had a lot of fun with it. I do think it was a little difficult not being able to play off of other people's thoughts. Or, if I rolled something poorly, I kind of just had to stop at the situation, right? I tried really hard to not metagame and not metagame my way around things that I think Thyric wouldn't understand, like the observatory, for example. I just didn't think he would understand the star map or the statues specifically. I just didn't think he would understand the statues and what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, the statues I could see, but
so I really the star map, he maybe could have, but I just really wanted to try not to metagame because I think it's really important that we as players, try to, we're there to role play. We're not there to, look up stat blocks for the zombies or whatever.
Yeah.
And
well, it's like I told you too. In that room, like you wouldn't have been able to, even if you thought you were metagaming, you wouldn't have been able to figure out that puzzle because you didn't go to the other room in the observatory to even like find the answer. Like
right, but I mean, even though like I still had an idea.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't know the answer, I think Thyric wouldn't have known at all. I think he would have just been like, oh, statues, cool. Okay. So I guess that's kind of the initial thoughts as a DM and solo player. Do you think you'd recommend, doing DMing for a solo player for this campaign?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is super easy. So the campaign even says that, it can be played for 1 to 5 players. And all throughout the campaign, like reading it, it says that it was intended for 4 to 5 players. And then it might give like suggestions on if they're higher level, like maybe add a couple more zombies or sturges or whatever here. But it did say that if you had a party of 4 or 5, it was going to be really easy. So you can easily like turn it around and make it for 1 player. We did. And
Yeah.
I think it turned out for the first time running through it with each other, like first time DM, first time solo player. I think it was a really good first ride through.
Yeah. And I think back to my first time DMing, and that was the Lost Mines of Phandelver. And I feel like that campaign as a beginning DM was a lot deeper than this one. I feel like this one was a lot easier to understand and a lot easier to manage for somebody who is a beginner. So I would definitely recommend this to any beginner DMs. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it was a good story.
Yeah, and I would say like even how you are as a person too, and if you're not sure how you would be as a DM, this is a really good one for if you want to just follow as close to the book as possible, or if you want to branch off, add more things, like you can totally do so many things.
It has both of those things there.
Yeah.
So out of 5 stars, what do you think you would rate this campaign?
I would say 4.5.
I was also thinking 4.5.
So just because as a DM there were a few confusing parts, and I guess we didn't talk about this, but some combat styles were a little tricky to figure out, and I kind of just was like, all right, well, screw it, I'm just gonna do it like this. And I like one of those examples was in the Myconid cave, those like invisible mushrooms, like they were supposed to blend in, like go out and attack and then just hide again, and then I don't know, they were like super slow, and I wasn't how it was explaining combat was a little confusing. And eventually you just kind of like walked away from it. It's like, all right, whatever. So like some confusing combat styles, but then also I feel like it could have had I don't know, I just wanted like a little bit more with resolution of the story, and
I agree.
maybe some like history and background stuff of Dragon's Rest and the people and stuff there. I just felt like it was missing some of the story that way.
Yeah. I felt like the beginning is a little bit weird. Trying to figure out why it is that your character is going there could maybe be a little bit difficult. And again, that ending, I think could have been bigger, better, right? But at the end, it was just like, oh, Sparkrender's dead, and but,
like Adron's back. Yay, you're welcome to stay. Okay, cool.
So we are also planning on doing a spoiler-free review, and also a review that includes spoilers as well throughout the story. We'll be posting those soon after this video. Again, we'll see. It's going to be pretty inconsistent, unfortunately, just because we're a little unsure. Again, we'll kind of review fully there, what it is that we enjoyed and didn't enjoy. Again, a 4 out of 5 or 4.5 out of 5 is a pretty good score, I think. And again, I think we're both kind of grading it based on as beginner player and beginner DM. Assuming that you don't have any background with playing, because honestly, I think if you were experienced this, it might be a little boring, if I'm being honest. But we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. If you've made it this far, I think this video might be pretty long, but we appreciate you sitting here and going through this post-doc.
Like, this was a lot of work for us. Like, we put a lot of time into it, so I really wanted to get all of our thoughts and information out there.
So again, thank you for joining in this adventure, and we'll see you next time.